My lifelong fascination with Japanese urban legends always drew me towards the bizarre and mysterious. So when I heard about the legend of GOZU, also known as the Cowhead, a spirit rumored to reside in the small Suganuma village in Japan, my curiosity was instantly piqued. My friends Hiroshi and Yuki joined me. We spent a few days getting to know the village, speaking with locals and piecing the story together like a puzzle. I wanted to unravel the reason behind its madness and discover its villain origin story. We learned that the Cowhead was birthed from a powerful demon, summoned by a group of villagers who failed to provide a sacrifice of one of their livestock to end a series of famines in the 17th century. In retaliation, the demon cursed one of the villagers, turning him into the Cowhead, a vengeful spirit destined to haunt the village eternally, said to possess the head of a cow and a body reminiscent of a human. Out of desperation and starvation, the locals hunted and feasted on it. We also learned that many villagers had recently passed away because GOZU had returned and was seeking revenge, sharing his curse with others. Despite all this, my friends and I were ready for the adventure. And Hiroshi, a man of science, wanted a rational explanation for this supernatural mystery. One afternoon, we dined at our favorite local restaurant, savoring our delicious bowls of tender gyudon. All of a sudden, the owner rushed us out. As we stepped onto the sidewalk, I felt a sense of unease amongst the locals. With the street clearing out and the shops closing early, the village was gripped by an eerie silence. Then a low, strange growl echoed down the deserted street. It was coming from a small farmhouse. Compelled by curiosity and hunger for the unknown, we trespassed into the abandoned house. As we braved the dark, musty interior, a silhouette emerged from the shadows. We found ourselves face to face with a beast. It bore the terrifying form we had been told to expect, a big head and body. Its movements were awkward. Upon closer inspection, we noticed something deeply disturbing about the creature. Its skin was pale and stretched tightly over its skeletal frame. Its eyes were devoid of the supernatural malevolence we expected from a vengeful spirit, replaced instead with an expression of vacant confusion. It produced pitiful low moans that were more reminiscent of someone in pain than a malevolent spirit. Its erratic behavior suggested a lack of control, possibly a symptom of advanced neurological degeneration. Hiroshi recognized these symptoms. They closely resembled the final stages of bovine spongiform encephalopathy, more commonly known as mad cow disease, which had been known to cross species barriers and affect humans. As we examined the creature closer, we noticed its visage held more sickness than wickedness. The unfortunate creature was not the dreaded Cowhead, but a victim of a terrible disease that was ravaging the local farming community. This realization offered a moment of relief. Laughing nervously, Hiroshi and Yuki mimicked the creature's moans and mood as we exited the house to warn the locals about their contaminated meat, oblivious to the horror awaiting us. The streets were empty, and a foreboding sense of doom hung in the air. The quiet night was broken by the sound of hooves. Emerging from the shadows was a terrifying sight. It was a creature with a disproportionately large head adorned with two imposing horns and eerie glowing eyes that radiated malice, and holding a butcher knife. Its muscular human-like body, covered in coarse dark fur, lent an intimidating air to its already monstrous form. It started bellowing in anger. It was clear we weren't welcome. It lowered its head and pointed its horns towards us, and scraped the ground with its hooves, further signaling its agitation and readiness to charge. It fixated on Hiroshi first, and a chase ensued. I managed to run and find refuge in a dumpster, but my friends weren't as fortunate. One by one, their screams echoed in the night. The cowhead's attack was as unique and terrifying as the creature itself. It possessed a deadly combination of supernatural speed, agility, and strength. Its primary form of assault was its chillingly powerful voice. It unleashed an unearthly bellow that shattered the windows and disoriented its victims. I watched as this sonic attack left my friends stunned and vulnerable. It used its large, powerful skull to headbutt Hiroshi first. Hiroshi fell to the ground. Then GOZU struck him with his large knife, chopping until all that was left was a pile of mush. Then it turned to Yuki, who was trying to flee, but was cornered. Despite its massive form, the cowhead navigated through the dark with ease. It used its sharp and deadly horns to pierce through him with a swift and powerful strike. It trampled him, running back and forth in anger until his body became ground-up meat. Then it huffed and puffed and walked away from what was left of them. Traumatized and alone, I stayed in my hiding spot until morning, quiet and trying not to hurl. I finally emerged from my hiding place and fled the village. I attempted to return to normalcy, but I knew I wasn't safe. It was just the beginning of my ultimate demise. In the weeks that followed my escape from Suganuma, I began to suffer from insomnia. My nights haunted by the terrifying vision of the cowhead and the gruesome fate of Hiroshi and Yuki. During the day, I couldn't shake off the constant anxiety and depression. I was a prisoner in my own home and mind, captive to the terrifying events of that fateful night. Slowly but surely, I started noticing the onset of physical symptoms. I was constantly dizzy and weak, the room spinning around me as I tried to navigate even the most mundane tasks. My appetite vanished, and I found myself wasting away, a shell of the person I once was. It wasn't long before the tremors set in. At first, it was just my hands, but soon my entire body shook with uncontrollable convulsions. In the rare moments of lucidity, I realized the horrifying truth. I had contracted the same disease that had claimed the unfortunate villagers of Suganuma. I was no longer afraid of the beast that had haunted my dreams. Instead, I was terrified of the invisible enemy that was slowly destroying me from the inside. The disease progressed rapidly, and I found myself bedridden, trapped in my deteriorating body. I was the newest victim of the mad cow disease, destined to live out the rest of my days in suffering. The worst part? There was no escaping it. There was no cure. As my world shrank, I found myself reflecting on the events of that horrifying night. The laughter, the fear, the chase, the tragedy, the meals I enjoyed with my friends. It all played out in my mind in a ceaseless loop. Perhaps GOZU was now protecting cows from having a similar fate to his, and cursing those who dared feast it on its meat. Resigned to my fate, I accepted a shortened life filled with suffering, isolation, and the haunting memory of the cowhead. In the end, I was left with a cruel twist of irony. I was a victim, not just of the disease, but of my own curiosity, my own ignorance, my own insanity.